You're watching Public Affairs. Berkowitz is my name, and politics is our game. And we will be doing lots of politics and public policy this evening because we have as our guest State Senator Bill Brady from Bloomington, Illinois. He, of course, he was the Republican nominee for governor in the year 2010. And rumor has it, don't tell anybody, we'll whisper this, but I think Bill Brady's going to announce fairly soon that he's a candidate for governor of the state of Illinois in the Republican primary, which will be coming up there in March of 2014, right, Bill?
Well, we'll see. There's a number of people think we got something to finish from the last election.
So we're assuming he said yes, folks. Bill, you might not have heard it, but I hear a yes. So we're assuming he's running. You can clarify that if you want. We'll get, what's that guy, Dan Egler, right?
Dan is my campaign manager.
He's your campaign guy, so he's gearing up. I mean, Dan and I. Okay, so you're running for governor, but what people will say to you, Bill, is you lost by 32,000 votes last time. That's a fair chunk. That's the difference. You would have had to get 16,000 people who voted for Quinn to not vote for Quinn and vote for you. So you could say 16,000, right?
Or there was a third-party candidate in the race, if you remember right.
Yeah, well, that would mean that means you need more than 16,000. I'm trying to help you, Bill. Yeah. Don't argue with me when I'm trying to help you. If I'm trying to hurt you, then argue with me. Okay, no, but seriously, folks, this is a serious show. Seriously, people are going to wonder, like, what's the difference? Why would you get 30,000, however you want to put it, 30,000, 16,000 more votes this time if you're running in 2014 when you couldn't get it in 2010?
Well, the outcome of the last election worries me somewhat, but I'll tell you a story that after the election, former Governor Jeb Bush gave me a call, and he asked me if I'd thought about running again, and I said, you know, we're still licking the wounds. He said, well, let me tell you something. If I didn't lose the first time, I wouldn't have won the second. He lost his first race by over 40,000
for governor
in Florida. And we lost by 32,000. And he said, oftentimes people have to get to know you. And what he led up to is we were leading in the polls like he was the day before the election. His brother George was losing the day before the election, but in Texas, a state they were well known. Having first time on the ballot in a general election been this last election, as it was for Jeb, people get to know you. He said the second time around, they get to know you better, and a lot of the negatives, the lies that are told about people in campaigns don't stick.
So it's just a matter of getting to know you. So as Pat Brady said on this show just a few weeks ago, you know Pat.
I do.
He's like Pat Brady, Bill Brady, so he's like a cousin, a long-lost
No
cousin?
relation. We grew up together.
In Bloomington?
Yes.
Okay. And you went to school, was it something Catholic, right?
Yes, Bloomington Central Catholic. There are actually four boys with the last name Brady in my high school class.
So you were in the same class as Pat Brady?
Yes.
Okay, like you played football?
Pardon?
Did you play football there?
Pat and I played football. We were two of the Bradys that played football.
Like what positions did you play?
I played line, offensive and defensive line.
Offensive and defensive line, like a tackle or something?
I was a tackle and a guard.
Tackle and a guard. You're a defensive
tackle?
Like you're about,
I played
6'1"
defensive end in
something?
college. I'm 6'2".
6'2"? What'd you weigh at that time?
Varied. I had an injury that put some weight on. I started off at 200 pounds in my freshman year. I ended up weighing about 180 my senior year.
Oh, that's a little too, yeah, you lost too much weight.
Well,
anyway, so what about Pat? What did he play?
He was a defensive back and I think a running back, maybe a wide receiver.
Cool. Like, did he get more girls than you did because he was a receiver and you were a lineman?
I don't know. I think girls were intimidated by both of us.
You think? Intimidated?
Yeah.
But Nancy, your lovely bride, she was not intimidated by you.
You know, Nancy and I met in college at Illinois Wesleyan.
Okay. And so she might have, and she wasn't intimidated then, but you weren't playing football then, right? Were you still playing at Illinois?
She wasn't intimidated. She actually asked me out the first time.
She did?
Yeah.
I met Nancy a long time ago, and then we met again just before the show. And you know, doggone Bill, she didn't ask me out today.
Well, she's married.
Nance? Oh, okay. You're forgiven, Nance. She's all right. Okay. So, okay. But, so we were talking about you running for governor before I got off this thing, okay? And you're saying Jeb said to you, Jeb Bush, you call him Jeb?
I do.
Okay, the brother of George W.
Right.
The guy who really should have been, he was supposed to run for president before George, right? Something happened, but that was the plan, right?
Well, he lost his gubernatorial election in Florida, and George won his in Texas.
And that put him ahead.
Yes.
See how that works, folks? Those little quirks. Don't lose your first race. Well, he might come back, and he still may be president.
Well, there's a lot of people talking about he should run for president next time.
But he worked on your campaign? He supported you?
He came in and helped us out.
Okay, and he was anxious to do it again.
Well, I think a number of people are.
So folks, if we can just get that graphic up of the 10 people who might be running in the Republican primary, while you're working on get that, okay, let's run through this. Angelina Jolie, Anna Paris Devlantis. We've given her that nickname. Anna's a good friend of mine because she got married in Paris. Did you know that?
No.
She did, just for the heck of it. And then there's you, Senator Brady, Senator Dillard. Now we're on to, and Treasurer Dan Rutherford, Bruce Rauner, Congressman Schock. We're sort of like the Illinois phone book there. No, but a number of people. Adam Andrzejewski, Dan Proft, and Carol Marin. That's the real dark horse in the race, Carol Marin. You think she might run?
I think she's smarter than that.
But you just had one woman, Angelina Jolie, Carol Marin, Anna Devlantis. Yeah. Anna's our good friend. She's at Fox in the Morning or something, yeah. Okay, with that football player. You remember that guy? Was it Corey McFerrin or something like that? Yeah, okay. So all kidding aside, most of those folks are, Dillard's for sure is running. Rutherford's been, is out. He spent more time crisscrossing the state than anybody I've ever seen. I mean, seriously, right? You know that.
Well, I don't know. I spent a lot of time crisscrossing.
So
the
you
state.
were out there meeting, and he was raising money and trying to get candidates elected to the state house and the state senate. You were doing the same thing.
We were.
Okay. And Schock, of course, is the congressman who he's known for his six-pack. No, he doesn't drink a six-pack. He's got a six-pack, like that. Okay. All right. So, well, Aaron, come on the show. We'll treat you well. We haven't seen you in a while lately. Okay. Adam Andrzejewski for the good of Illinois. You know Adam, right? He ran on that same race
last
you did.
time.
Got about 15% of the vote. Not bad for a guy who's just coming out. Prof got 8%. Okay. And then Bruce Rauner. Now, realistically, these folks could all be running. You could have a big field again. You think you will?
You know what? More the merrier. I have enjoyed campaigns. The last primary was a lot of fun. But certainly you get people in the race and the dynamics and they divide people off. There's a lot of people who said that if Adam Andrzejewski and Dan Proft hadn't gotten in the race, I would have gotten their vote. But campaigns...
Why you and not Dillard?
I know people just felt that their voters were more in tune with the philosophy that I've had.
Which is?
Well, I'm a pretty conservative fiscal guy.
And you're saying Dillard's not quite as conservative fiscal as you are?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying my record speaks for itself. I've never voted for a tax increase. I don't.
Dillard has voted for some tax increases, right?
I don't vote for borrowing.
Dillard's voted for some borrowing.
Senator Dillard's going to be on your show, and he can talk about his record. But
no, but you're implying that. No, it's not. No, be fair. I'm not kidding. Look, we like Senator Dillard, and he's going to be on the show. But you're implying when you say you've never voted for a tax increase, wink, wink, you're saying Dillard has. You're saying you don't vote for borrowing. He does.
You asked why I thought people thought Andrzejewski's vote because would come to me, because they were more of people who were fed up with large government, didn't want to play the game, and they want to get serious about a government that's going to not squander tax dollars.
And that's what you're running on again. You're running on that same platform, right? Less spending, less taxes, don't squander. You don't have to say who, but you're saying some of your opponents might not have that kind of pure voting record. Am I getting that right?
Well, to be true,
that's the advantage.
There's only three people you mentioned who have a voting record.
And that would be Dillard, and that would be Rutherford, and that would be and Schock.
Yeah.
You think Schock is known as a big spender in Congress?
I didn't say that. But my message has been consistent. I've run a business. I know what it's like to meet the bottom line. And Illinois needs someone who can bring jobs back.
But sometimes, Quinn pushed you on that, and he said, the business didn't do so well. A lot of people were cut away. He implied you took care of yourself, and your employees took it on the chin. Didn't he say that? I'm not saying it.
I'm not going to put words in his mouth. Let me tell you.
You didn't hear Quinn say that?
No, I'm in a housing business that ebbs and flows with the economy. We've survived one of the worst economic times the housing business has ever seen, and we're back on our feet again, building homes and starting new businesses.
And the business is doing well?
Yes.
Making money last year?
We've got several businesses that have.
What are those? Those are the sales of homes, building homes, sales of
homes?
What are your businesses?
Well, I have 4 or 5 now real estate companies, about 70 realtors. We have a property management business.
So you do a lot of buy-sell homes, right?
We do a lot of brokerage for other people. Okay. Property management business.
You building homes yet?
I have
You used to build homes, right?
We used to be large developers and builders, but there are none anymore. I have a financial interest in my brother Ed Brady's Brady Homes, and it's building homes. I also started a new restoration company. which is
That's to restore old homes and make
no,
them...
it's a water restoration company, like
Water restoration.
insurance damage,
Oh, I see.
that kind of stuff. So
Wait,
we're excited
insurance
about
damage,
that.
you mean like damage, water damage that was insured?
Yes,
And why do we call it restoration?
it's just a term that's used
Okay.
in the industry: fire, water, mold, restoration.
So you just fix things, or the people who work for you fix them and make them good?
Yeah, we help people
And how
out.
many people work for you now, for your companies that you're part owners of? You're part owner of these companies, you're not a complete owner, right?
Well,
Are those companies all you mentioned, or would you say you're the sole owner?
no, I have sole ownership of some companies and partial ownership of others.
Okay, and of those companies that you're, let's say, a significant ownership interest in, how many people are you employing that either
Probably
you...
70 realtors and a couple dozen employees.
Okay. So we're up to about 100. Now, the realtors aren't employed by you in the sense that they get a paycheck, they get a commission, right?
That's right.
Okay. But you view them as your employees, even though they're sort of
Well, not
independent
under
contractors?
the, not
Under the law, they're
under the
independent
law,
contractors.
independent contractors.
But in a sense, you're helping provide jobs for these people. Would
That's
that
right.
be fair?
Absolutely.
Okay. And the philosophy you have is if the private free market forces are unleashed in the state of Illinois, more jobs will be created than if we spend a lot of time trying to have government direct job
You hit
creation.
the nail on the head. It's absolutely right.
Who-
Illinois got
that
more
would
to
be,
offer.
it was just a little plug here. That's Milton Friedman, Capitalism and Freedom, right here, right? See that book? Okay. You're a believer in this guy.
Absolutely. I studied economics in college.
You did. And you studied about
studied-
Have you read this book before?
I have.
You have
Several
a copy
times.
of it?
I do.
Okay, so we're going to save it and give it to somebody.
I'll
who
take
doesn't.
it because I always like giving them away.
You got it.
All
You
right.
came all the way up to Bloomington. Now do I get that invitation, Nancy? Where are you? Okay,
Yeah.
right over there. All right, I'm angling for an invitation to the wedding. This is the social event of the year, October 19th, right? Can I say that?
You can.
October 19th, the year 2013.
Yeah.
We're not into 2013 yet, so I got like 10 months to work on you, Nancy, to get that invitation, right? and it's your daughter,
Yes.
Kate,
Kate.
and your son-in-law to be is,
Matt Faulkner.
okay, from Shaker Heights in Cleveland, right?
Raised there. Here now.
Raised there, but he's here now.
Yes.
And they're getting married upstate here in Chicago.
They are.
This is like really, Dan, are you listening? You can work this into the whole campaign. You get this big social event. Where? In Chicago. Because remember, Pat Brady said on this show, you saw that show, right?
I did.
When Pat was picking on you, said you didn't spend enough time here in Chicago, right?
I missed that part.
You missed that part. He said, well, you lost because you didn't get suburban women, right? Or at least you didn't get a big suburban vote. Would that be fair as to what Pat said about you?
I think it goes back to what
Chicago Metro
what Governor
suburban
Bush
vote.
said. It was my first time on the ballot.
Okay.
I think having been tested and been introduced to voters in the state will do better. In fact, a poll that was done during the convention showed that of all the candidates you mentioned, I resonated the best with the moderate woman vote.
Really, even better than Angelina Jolie?
She wasn't in that
Oh,
poll.
she wasn't that. Okay. Anna Duplantis, wasn't it?
I
Carol
don't
Moraine?
think, no, they weren't in
Okay.
the poll.
No, but you're saying you resonated better, and this was a recent poll?
It was a poll that was done during the Republican convention.
Oh, during the
We Ask America did a poll.
in 2012.
No, yes.
Yeah, in this last
That's
year.
right.
And this poll was of all women across the state of Illinois, or just the Chicago suburban
No,
women?
I think it was a large grouping.
What, larger than the Chicago metro area?
Yes.
And you did better of the candidates that ran before, better than Dillard, you're saying?
Amongst all the candidates, I did better overall, but I also did better amongst, to your point, amongst moderate women, as the poll defined.
You did better than Dillard?
Uh-huh.
Better than Rutherford?
I did.
Okay. Better than Congressman Schock?
Why do you keep mentioning everyone's name?
Well, because I want
Everybody.
people to, you know.
I'm kidding you. I'm
Look,
kidding
this
you.
guy's, you ever seen that six-pack he's got? I mean, if you did better
No,
than
I
that.
haven't.
It's on the magazine. What is it, Gentleman's Quarterly or something? No, I'm not fooling around. This gets votes. Bill, seriously.
Yeah.
You're blushing now, okay? You got a six-pack?
Oh, don't we all?
I don't know. No, I don't have one, folks. Okay. All right, but seriously, so you're saying that that's really moderate women, Republican or otherwise, are not a problem for you because according to this poll, you did better. At least they're not more of a problem for you than any of your opponents, right?
You know, there's no question that we need to do more to reach out to voters. I'm a small business person from Bloomington, Illinois. I've represented my district, but that was my first foray into a statewide ballot.
Well, let's parse this a little bit. You're pro-life, right?
I am.
Okay. And some people say a lot of the suburban women, moderate Republican, independents, maybe even moderate Democrats, they're not pro-life, they're pro-choice. And it's hard for Republicans who are pro-life. Some people say this, not me. But you hear this, Bill, okay? It's hard for Republicans to get those votes. And to be fair, Senator Dillard views himself as pro-life. I'm not saying he is or isn't. Rutherford, I think, views himself as pro-life. I don't know about Schock. So it wouldn't be just you, but people are saying you and Dillard and Rutherford have a little trouble with suburban women because of those abortion views. Do you think they're right?
Well, I think the issue, so to speak, is not the highest priority for anybody in Illinois in terms of what we're looking at right now. I think those women would feel that the economy is more important. They feel that the Supreme Court probably protects them. So I think...
So pro-choice, the point is, even though you're pro-life, you're saying the U.S. Supreme Court is unlikely to overturn Roe v. Wade anytime soon. So that means that states really can't do a lot to restrict abortion.
When I talk to pro-choice
even
women
though you might favor that,
who support me, knowing I'm pro-life, they do so because they realize that the Supreme Court has weighed in on that issue. There's very little a governor can do, and that the economic issues facing families today are the most important thing that we have. We need a governor to focus on.
When you say economic issues, what do you mean by that?
I mean, what a governor can do to create an environment that creates and protects jobs in the state. Governor Quinn has failed miserably. He passed the single largest tax increase we ever saw, taking money out of the pockets of families. How
much was that tax increase?
67% increase.
It went from a 3% rate to 5% for individuals, 4.8%, I think, for the corporate side to 7.2%. So, and it raised about $5 or $6 billion. Now, some would
on an annualized basis.
Good. Some would say that good because it gave $6 billion to the Illinois state government. We've got these unpaid bills which are still unpaid, and it had a deficit, so they needed the revenue. Some would say that, but you might say, but it transferred $6 billion that was controlled by private individuals, now controlled by government.
It took money out of people's pockets.
Would you say that? I don't
Absolutely.
want to put words in your mouth. Okay.
You know I would. Okay. They took money out of people's pockets who are struggling with the false promise that it would pay down the backlog of unpaid bills, and yet Governor Quinn has accumulated over $10 billion in unpaid bills at best estimates we've seen. It was less than half of that before he was elected. His pension programs have failed to date. We've got over
pension reform.
Yes, we've got over $100 billion in unfunded pension liabilities. We need someone who's going to turn the course. In order to get businesses to invest in Illinois, we've got to show that we're fiscally responsible. We lost a major business to a neighboring state, even with a better package being offered to that business, because they were smart enough to realize that this governor probably couldn't live up to the promise because of the fiscal responsibility in this state. So we need a governor who's going to focus on reducing the tax burden, restricting government spending, fostering a private sector that creates jobs and puts money in the pockets of Illinois families.
So, and that tax increase that was passed, it does have a sunset provision for a portion of it, right? To phase out a portion, but not completely.
Two different phase outs.
Okay, and even after the phase out is done, it still wouldn't go back completely to 3% for the individual, right?
Right.
Now, would you, if you could, would you immediately? I mean, we're taping this show, on December 2nd, 2012. Yeah. If you could somehow persuade, which would take a lot of persuasion, but if you could persuade the majority of members of the state Senate and the state House, and right now, let me get to this, the Democrats have a veto-proof majority in both, not that Quinn would veto it, but if you could persuade your colleagues in the state Senate and the state House to repeal the income tax increase right now, December 2nd, 2012, and then persuade Quinn not to veto that, would you do it?
Of course.
Right now. And if you did that, next year there'd be $6 billion less to spend. How would Illinois get by? Because you just pointed out there are these, 9 or 10 billion unpaid bills, I think is what you said. 9 or 10 billion dollars in unpaid bills. That would create a deficit, wouldn't it, of $6 billion in the operating deficit. Yeah. So how would you deal with that if you got that?
Let's talk about the positive effects of that.
Okay.
If we leave more money in the hands of the private sector, they will not just bank it, they're going to spend it, it will go into the economy, and in itself will create more revenues for the state of Illinois.
So you're sort of Keynesian, because that's a Keynesian view, isn't it?
Well, no.
You need aggregate demand to get up there. If you put more money in the hands of private individuals, Keynesians would say.
I wouldn't consider myself a Keynesian.
But that's sort of a Keynesian
I think
view.
Milton Friedman would say the same thing.
You think he would? Okay.
If you give more money to people,
maybe we can channel Milton now
to use that,
deceased, yeah.
they would do that. But the other fact of the matter is, you send a message.
No, let me just say
to
this. I don't want people
corporations.
to think I'm fooling around. Milton Friedman was the greatest economist to live in the last century, following Alfred Marshall from the century before, and then Adam Smith. And I think you're right. He would say, but I don't think he would say the main thing is return those taxes to the individuals. They will handle that money better than government will. So to be fair, I think I would say it's not so much of the aggregate demand, which you were sort of implying. Get that money in the hands of individuals. Businesses would have more money. Individuals would. They could make better decisions on health care, on education, and then on the job front, on their businesses. But folks, I didn't want that. Sometimes I do a little playing around, and I'm not now. But that is a really key economic point, and you're making it, Bill.
There's no question.
And I just wanted to be clear. We're balanced here. We're not taking positions here. But sometimes if you were to squeeze out my own personal views, I would say it's hard to argue with the personal views of people who push and promote and advocate for the free market. I'll do it sometimes, but it's hard. Anyway, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No. But the point being is, Illinois' spending needs to be restricted, and we need
spending. So what areas would you restrict that spending in, though? I mean,
almost all areas, except there was one area I always said that we had difficulties.
Does that mean we would spend less on education? And would the state government spend less on education?
Well, first of all, you've got to solve the pension crisis, which is a big chunk of education. We've got to strengthen
Which is a big, what do you mean by that?
Big chunk of education.
Well, because there's a lot of educators who have high pensions. You're going to have to cut those benefits. Is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is our goal here is to strengthen, solidify the pension system so that taxpayers down the road aren't left with...
Let's a little distraction here, but let's take that detour. How do you deal with the pension issue? You're saying, because Quinn, maybe to his credit, he has advocated an increase in the retirement age. He wants people to work longer, on average. That would mean instead of many cases now they're retiring 55, 57, that would raise it probably to 62 or higher. He wants to increase the employee contribution to those state employee pensions. He wants to decrease the cost of living adjustment, the COLA, and I think he wants to remove compounding. Now, are there any of those things that I said that Quinn wants that you don't want to do?
Well, let me frame this differently, okay? Governor Quinn and the Democrats in charge demanded that pension reform would have to fall under the provision that there would be offer and acceptance. Okay. In other words, you would give up some reforms to have a stronger system in exchange for something else. And with all due respect to Governor Quinn, where he's off the reservation is, if you demand all those things that are in an offer and acceptance equation, no one will take the deal and you'll save no money. So what I've suggested, if under those demands, is that we barter the continuation of health insurance for retirees against funding the system and asking people to take an alternative COLA.
So
Not 3%
saying
compounded.
If they want to continue to get the subsidies for health insurance, retirees, and people who are not yet retired but will, state employees, they're going to have to take the lower COLA. Is that what you're saying?
Right. Not to give it up.
But a lower one.
Rather than a 3%
right now it's 3%,
compounded,
1.5,
it'd
not
be
compounded.
half a CPI or 3%, whichever's less.
And not compounded.
And the rationale here is, this is a mixture of quid pro quo, so to speak, to get them to accept the contractual agreement that could save us, under our task force estimates, $100 billion and have a fully funded system in 30 years.
Just that one step. Just them
the whole package.
Getting every state employee.
If everyone accepted
that package, which would only modify the COLA downward, and only remove compounding, it would not increase the retirement age. You're saying, and it would not increase the employee contribution. And you're saying you would save $100 billion over the next 30 years,
coupled with accepting 30-year GASB funding formulas, which we believe we could afford, if rates of return continue. That's the one caveat.
And what is that fund? Because right now, this last year, $5 billion, I believe, went into the pension fund. Is that right?
Approximately.
State pensions, state employee. Does that mean, because Ralph Mortieri has said, if you follow what people are suggesting, which sounds like you are, you're going to keep ramping up. The current law ramps up that $5 billion. It doesn't stay for the next 30 years. It goes like 5 to 6 to 10.
This would change the current law to accept 30-year GASB requirements.
What would that
in terms
mean?
of
Just
funding.
if you were to project out the next 5 years,
Yeah.
in 5 years, what would be the pension payment contribution using those GASB standards?
The ramp pretty much continues in the first couple of years.
It doesn't change the first couple, but in 5 years,
it
what would it
levels
be?
off.
What would it be in 5 years?
It levels off and becomes a very affordable percentage of the state budget.
But what would it be? Just give us a number. In
I-
5 years, would it be more than $5 billion?
Yes.
Would it be around $8 billion?
I'd have to go back and look at the numbers,
Isn't that
Jeff.
a lot of money? I mean, that sounds like.
But what happens is by accepting these, it becomes an amount of money that is within a relative proportion of state government growth and revenue. So it's affordable. With the caveat that I've said to everybody. And this is a tough thing. It's very hard because governors in the past, Governor Quinn, Governor Blagojevich, failed to fund the pensions, that we have to ask people to give up something they were promised. But if we're going to deliver on what we can, we're going to have to ask for these reforms. But having said that, what happens then is under this funding mechanism, it becomes a relative to the percentage of state revenue, and it doesn't ramp so fast that you can't do it. This current year under the old formula, we're going to have about $200 billion more in required pension funding than we have in increased revenue growth, which is completely upside down and has to be changed.
Yeah, okay. So you got to get those pension payments down relative to economic growth for the
And
state.
every day the governor delays to lead on this, we're digging a deeper hole.
Okay. So you're laying out your platform running in 2014, like about October 19th when you're kicking into high gear, right about the wedding date for your daughter, for Matt and Kate.
I'll probably be a little preoccupied on that day.
Okay, Matt and Kate, do you want to tell people the church, or you want to keep that
Oh,
private?
they named it, married at Holy Name Cathedral.
That's here in Chicago.
Yes.
So Pat Brady, hear this? Bill Brady just said he's going to be getting his daughter married here in Chicago. Is that Chicago-centric enough for you? I want to stick it to you're a good friend.
No, Pat's our party chairman, a good guy.
You're okay with Pat, okay. All right, so you've laid out the platform. You got to do the pensions, as you've said. You got to get that tax removed so you stimulate growth in the private sector. Anything else you're running here on 2014? We got that. We're getting this campaign in high gear, Dan. Dan's going to thank me, right?
Yeah.
I'm fair and balanced. Look, Kurt, Kurt Dillard, you come here. We're doing the same thing for you. We're going to help you streamline your campaign. Yeah. Dan Rutherford, treasurer, you come here. We're going to help you get that, because people are wondering his sky's ahead. Pat Brady, he's laid out his campaign, and he's moved ahead right now on the Berkowitz show. Okay.
Well, education's obviously important, and I know that vouchers are particularly important to you. I want to give parents more choice in their child's education, and I certainly want to see a pilot program in Chicago that works in some of the most challenging school districts to give parents that choice that
So
they
you'd
so
like to give
desperately
school
need.
vouchers. In Chicago, you spend $15,000 per kid per year. Would you like to give each parent a little backpack that says, here's $15,000, spend it at the school of your choice?
I don't know if it has to be 15,000.
12,000 maybe?
But the
A good chunk of money,
The
a good
economic
chunk of money.
opportunity to make a choice about
To go
where
to
their
the school.
child's going to
Okay.
school.
So, okay, you'd like to do that. You would push that legislation if you were governor.
I have co-sponsored it.
You did try to help Senator Meeks do that for that bottom decile of kids.
Right.
Okay. So especially for Chicago. So you're running on that in Chicago.
I even mentioned it to Rob Emanuel.
Okay. So if you can get, I mean, it's good, you're saying it's good for the people, good for these kids to have a choice, helps low-income parents, but also good for you, because if you could get the African-American vote up just slightly,